written step-by-step procedure to achieve an task. That's what we mean by algorithm. Now, whenever the algorithms are being written, it depends on the person. It varies from person to person because all the persons are not thinking in the same way, right? They may think in different way. So one may give an another solution. Other person may give some other solutions because they are having their own mind. They can think in a different way and they can give different algorithms, right? But then we have to select the best one, and for selecting the best one we should know that which algorithms should be considered for selecting the best one, and for that purpose we should know the characteristics of algorithm. We have to select the primary stage to select an algorithm that it should satisfy the some characteristics. Now what are those characteristics? The very first characteristics is unambiguous, right? There should be no ambiguity. Yeah? The whatever the programmer want to say must be unambiguous. That means it should have only one meaning. There should not be any double meaning for any kind of statement. If he has to say something, then he will write the step in the algorithm and the meaning of that statement will be only unique. Okay, so unambiguous is first characteristics, definitely. The other characteristic that it should have either zero or more well-defined input. Again, what kind of inputs are to be given, that should be defined. For example, if you are writing a program for factorial and if you say that I will accept -1, so it should not happen because we cannot find factorial of -1, right? Or if we are trying to find square root, then the number should not be negative because we cannot find the square root of a negative number. So well-defined inputs must be there. Okay. Then output, definitely. If we are writing something, if we are writing a program, writing an algorithm, definitely we want some output. So an algorithm should have at least one or more than one well-defined output, right? And whatever we are expecting the output and what output the algorithm is giving must match, right? Otherwise it is giving output but it is not matching to our expectations, so that should not happen. So that is also one of the characteristics of an algorithm. Then the next characteristic is finiteness. As far as algorithms are concerned, I already told you that there are loops in a statement. Okay, there are loopings in a statement. I will tell you the meaning of that. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, for example, if I am writing one loop here, okay, while and I am writing one, okay, and I am doing some statements here, okay. So now this loop is infinite loop. Why? Because the condition here is one. Always this condition is true. While one means true. So this is an infinite loop. If you run this program, it will never terminate. So it's an infinite program. So this thing should not happen. You should have some kind of statement here if condition break. So at least when this condition will get satisfied, the control will come out of this loop and then the remaining portion of the program may get executed or the program may get terminated. So definitely if there is a loop, infinite loop, you should have some exit condition from that loop. So that's why that finiteness is necessary. Then next characteristics is feasible. Now if you know one statement given by a major scientist, that if I have been provided unlimited resources and unlimited time, I can do anything. Are you getting? अगर मुझे अमर्याद रिसोर्सेस मिले और अमर्याद समय अगर कोई मुझे देता है तो मैं कुछ भी कर सकता हूँ, राइट? बिकॉज देर इज नो लिमिट फॉर इनफाइनाइट टाइम. ओके, तो अगर मान लो 10 साल हो गए, बोलेंगे इनफाइनाइट टाइम है, अभी चल रहा है काम. तो फिजिबिलिटी मीन्स व्हाट? The task must be feasible within the available resources. Whatever resources are available within that vicinity, the program must get executed. Okay. And the last thing which is very important as far as engineers are concerned, that algorithm should have step-by-step direction which should be independent of any program code. The algorithm should not be telling about any program specific feature, right? It should write in general. So that's why when I say algorithm, I say that it should be written in English language only, not in any programming language. Don't write algorithm in any programming language. But if it is being written for yourself only, no one else will going to read, then you are having flexibility to write in any way, right? But if it is to be read by someone else, then definitely it should be written in English language or a language which is acceptable by all the parties. But definitely it should not be programming language. From the algorithm, it should not be seen that you have written for C or C++ or Java or Python or like that, right? You don't write algorithm in any programming language. It should be written in uh, plain natural language, maybe Hindi, English, Marathi, whatever it may be. Now, these were the six characteristics, and even if you write, you can check for these six characteristics of your algorithm. I'm not talking of small algorithms, right? I'm talking of algorithms which are very large in nature, because the systems are large, so algorithms will be also large. So in such cases, these things should be tested, that whether all the characteristics of algorithms are being satisfied or not. The next thing is how to write an algorithm, right? As I told you right now, that it should be not written in any particular programming language. You should write that code, that algorithm in a natural language, and it should be very written in simple language. Don't use heavy words which are not understandable by others. Okay, so if you are writing for yourself, then say for example, if I'm writing by for myself, right, then I can write like this. Okay, fine, because I know what I have written here. Okay, you can say the doctor handwriting. Okay, so if you are writing for yourself, then you can write in any way, because you have to only understood it in future. But if you are writing for others, then definitely you have to write in a very simple manner, right? Which is readable, understandable, interpretable by others. So that thing you have to keep in mind whenever you are writing algorithm. Okay. So here, two examples are given for adding the two numbers. The both algorithms, the first and second algorithm, both algorithms are same. I am writing start. I am declaring three integers a, b, c. I am defining values for a, b. I am adding values, store output of for step 4 to c, print c, and stop. But the same algorithm is written here also. Start, add. The name has been given to the algorithm. That what is the name of algorithm? Add. Then get the values of a and b. Then do the addition and store the answer in C and display C and stop. That's all. So both algorithms are same. But if you see, the second algorithm is more readable and is more uh, written in natural language, because here it is, you are saying declare, define. So how to declare? You are saying that you have to declare variables in programming language. No, you should only say in natural language that get the values of a and b and do the addition and display the result. That's all. Means I can write the algorithm like this also. First step, I can write like this also. Get the numbers, then do the addition or perform the addition, and the third one, display result. This is also a good algorithm, no problem. What I have to do, I have to first get the numbers, and then I have to do the addition, and I have to display the results, right? It is written in some other manner here. So you can write in the way it is acceptable by your team or by the members who are going to read that algorithm. That's all. Now, what may happen, as I told you, that different persons will write different solutions, right? If I am a leader and I am having 4 members with me, I will give the same task to all the students, all the members, and ask them to write algorithm. So they will come up with different solutions, different algorithms, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now I have to choose better one, which one is better. And for that purpose, then I have to perform analysis of that algorithm, because uh, without analysis, I won't come to know whether the solution provided by member 1 is good or solution provided by member 3 is good. I have to do some analysis, theoretical or practical, whatever it may be, but I have to do the analysis, right? So what kind of analysis we can perform? We can perform two kind of analysis, a priori analysis and posterior analysis. As far as posterior analysis is concerned, it is being done after you execute the program, right? Once the program is written and executed, you run the program on the machine, and from that machine you will get the statistics that how much time it takes or how much space it is requiring or it is consuming. From that you will come to know that which algorithm is better. For example, if I say that, say, solution 1, if I run the program solution 1, it takes, say, 5 millisecond, and the memory occupied is 1 KB, right? The solution 2 may take 4 millisecond, but it consumes 10 KB, right? Now this is pros and cons, whether you want better time or you want better space. It depends on that. You will go for either solution 1 or solution 2. But it may happen that this machine is running on 2 gigahertz machine, and this machine is running on, say, 5 gigahertz machine, right? Because it is running on 5 gigahertz, it is taking 4 milliseconds, and because it is running on 2 gigahertz, it is taking 5 milliseconds. Now, which one is better? If we are having this machine, then definitely we will say that the second one is better. But if you are having this machine, and if you run the same program on this machine, it may take 10 milliseconds or more than that. So, if we talk about posteriori analysis, then we won't be able to exactly find out the analysis of the algorithm. Definitely, if you run the program, you find out the statistics. From that statistics, you will tell that this is better and that is better. But definitely, it is machine dependent. Then on that machine, it takes 5 milliseconds. But if it is run on other machine, it may take more time or less time. So that's why we normally don't prefer for this posterior analysis. We go for a priori analysis, which is an theoretical analysis of an algorithm, right? Where efficiency is measured by assuming that all the factors, that is processor, speed, are same and they are having no effect on the implementation. Means that resources available for all algorithms are same, and then we will have to compare which one is good and which one is bad, right? So for that purpose, we have to talk about the complexity of the algorithm, that how complex the algorithm is. The more the complexity, the more the time it will take. The less the complexity, the less time it will take, right? So complexity of an algorithm is decided by two factors. One is time factor, other one is space factor. But nowadays, as far as nowadays is concerned, because in earlier days, memory was very, what we can say, memory was very big concern, right? If you might be knowing 8085, it was having only 64 kilobyte of memory. That's all. And if you know that the machines at that time were having only 40 MB hard disk, nowadays you are having 128 GB pen drive with you, right? You are having the floppy diskette was of 1.44 MB. Nowadays you are having CD with 8 GB, 16 GB, so on and so forth. So nowadays space is not a major issue. So the learners or the scientists have not worked more on this space complexity. They are focusing more on time complexity, right? So we will also not talk more on space complexity. But in short, if I have to tell what is space complexity, that if an algorithm 1 is taking 10 kilobyte, and if an algorithm 2 is taking 15 kilobyte, then definitely the algorithm which is taking 10 kilobyte memory is more efficient as compared to 15 kilobyte memory, right? That's all for understand the space complexity. It is very simple. The algorithms which are taking more time, more space, are having more complexity, and the algorithm which are taking less space for the same task. I'm talking about same task. For the same task, they will have less complexity. Okay. So if we go for any problem, by the way, in understanding the characteristics or uh,
No, sir, no issues.
No
No, sir.
issue about speed, about language. If there is any issue, please let me know right now only. Because as these are the starting lectures, those lectures may be very simple. There is no much complexity. If we talk about complexity of the subject, now the complexity is very low. But as we proceed further, the complexity will grow linearly or exponentially. I can't say. It depends on you people how you are grasping my explanation, right? So if you are having any doubt in my explanation, in my language, in my speed, please let me know, because I know I am talking very fast. So if you are able to grasp it, it's fine. But if you are not able to grasp it, please let me know. I will talk slowly, right? But by nature, I am talking very fast. So it depends on you. The break I had given in your hand. If you want, I should speak slow. You just let me know. I will speak slow, because you have to give me a hint every time, है ना? बाय डिफॉल्ट क्या होता है, मैं मेरे नेचुरल वे में बात करता हूँ. तो अगर आपको लगता है कि मैं फास्ट हूँ, तो आप मेरे को बीच में टोक दिया करो, सर थोड़ा स्लो. तो आई विल टॉक स्लोली दैट, राइट? ओके, so I will proceed further. Now, uh, we will see how the time complexity is being measured, right? What are the notations to be used in this time complexity that we are going to see? Okay. So, for example, if we are adding two integers, right? Say I will write here. Suppose I am writing a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 20 and c is equal to a plus b, right? So this is assignment operation, right? This is also assignment operation, and this is arithmetic operation, right? So for a particular operation, you can assign, you can assume how many states it will take. Means unit, you can say that. For example, I am saying it will perform in one unit operation, right? Again, assignment is performed in one unit operation, and arithmetic is performed in two unit operation. So how much unit it will take? 4 unit operation it will take, right? For adding two numbers, right? For adding two numbers. So if n is equal to 2, the time taken is constant. If n is equal to 2, the time taken is constant. But if n is becomes 3, then it has to perform two addition, means a plus b, and this is one addition and the third number to be added. So two additions. So it will take, instead of 2, it will take 4 unit. So instead of 4, it will become 6. So as the number is increased by 3, the total unit increased by 2. So as you go on increasing the number, the time unit will go on increasing. So we can say that it is linear growth. We can say it is linear growth, right? So it depends on n. The number of the amount of time required will be depending on n. So as n increases, the time also increases. In this way, you have to find out the number of units. Means we have to assign the same. Even if you write other algorithm, for other algorithm also the same assumptions will be there, right? So this is algorithm 1, this is algorithm 2, right? There may be third algorithm. So for assigning 1 unit, for arithmetic 2 unit, for you find out what kind of operations you are performing. For each and every operation, assign the unit taken, time unit taken by that step, and apply this unit to all the algorithms. And then you will come to know how much time is taken by algorithm 1, 2, and 3. And then you can compare. Fine. So then actually we have to do the analysis of algorithm, and the notation which is used for that is called as asymptotic analysis, right? And whatever analysis we are going to do, that is called as asymptotic analysis of an algorithm. So what it refers to, defining the mathematical foundation of its runtime performance. We should know that how much maximum time the algorithm will take or how much minimum time the algorithm will take. So if you know the boundary values, then definitely you can say that yes, if this algorithm is run, it will be taking minimum this much time and maximum this much time. So suppose I am writing here, it is minimum it is taking 4 unit, maximum it is taking 10 unit. So this is the boundary of that. So the algorithm value, suppose t, so it is greater than 4 but less than 10. So these are the boundary values, right? If this is a time taken for algorithm 1, this is time taken for algorithm 2, here it may be 6 less than, and here it may be 9. So here definitely the minimum boundary time is less, here the minimum boundary time is more, but here if you see the maximum boundary value is 10 and here the maximum boundary value is 9. So in my opinion the t2 is better, even though one value, smaller value is uh, greater in T2. Okay, so we have to do analysis, but this analysis is already having one assumption that for lower values of n, this analysis may not work. Right? For lower values of n, this analysis may not work. So we have to do analysis of algorithm only when the value of n is more large. Then only we will be able to find out the difference, because you know that the CPU speed is in terms of gigahertz, that is nanoseconds nowadays, and if the value of n is 10 uh, and somewhere it is linear growth, in other it is exponential growth. So for value for n is equal to 10, even it is linear growth, then it may take say 20 nanosecond, and for exponential growth it may take say 100 nanosecond, right? But for us we are not able to differentiate between 20 nanosecond and 100 nanosecond. So as long as the value of n is small, the time difference is not mattering for us, right? Yes, the value of n is say 1 lakh, those things are for, then here it may be, for example, it may have say 20 millisecond, and here it may be 2 second, for example. Now yes, you can definitely differentiate between 20 millisecond and 2 second, right? So when the value of n is large, then only this asymptotic analysis is to be considered. Otherwise for small values there is no meaning in doing the analysis of algorithm, right? So what are the cases? I already told that the minimum time required for program execution will be the best case, the maximum time required for the program execution will be the worst case, and on an average, if you run the program for 4 times, then you have to find the average. So what is the average time? Sometime it may be best case, sometime it may be worst case, so you have to find on an average case. But as far as our theory is concerned, we will consider only worst case. You should not consider best case, you should not consider average case. For analysis purpose, we have to consider only worst case, that you should keep in mind. If you become a leader and if someone tell you that my average time is less but his worst case time is more than that, so you have to consider worst case time only. Now for that purpose there are certain notations to be used in this analysis, right? So three kind of notations are provided. This is called as big O notation, this is called as omega notation, and this is called as theta notation, right? So what are those three notations? The first notation will tell you that what is the, just a minute, hold on. Hello, hello. Good morning. Okay, so where I was, can anyone tell me?
Bigger notation.
Notations.
Big notations. Okay, okay. ठीक है, ठीक है. So, if we want to do the analysis, we should know the lower bound and the upper bound of an algorithm. That how much time it will take maximum and how much time it will take minimum. Okay. So, this is one notation called as big O notation, right? Now, this notation is represented as O of n, where n is the number of input, right? Always we will talk algorithm complexity in terms of its input, that how much input we are giving algorithm. If there is no input, then the time taken is constant. We will assume that constant. Okay. So the notation ON is the formal way to express the upper bound of an algorithm's running time. How much time it will take, maximum time. That we represent by this O of n, right? So it measures the worst time complexity. As it is upper bound, definitely it will be the worst case complexity, right? For example, for a function fn. Now here, if you see that fn is given here, the graph of fn, and another graph of gn is given. But for lower value, if you see the lower part here, I am moving my cursor here, you can see that gn is smaller than fn. But then as the value of n increases, then definitely you can see that always the value of gn is greater than fn, right? So gn is what? Upper bound. What is gn? Gn is upper bound. Okay. So there exists what this says, O of fn is equal to gn such that there exists c which is greater than 0 and n0 such that fn is always less than c into gn, where c is a constant, right? So here n0 you can say that k is n0 because after n0 only this equation is satisfying. Before n0 the equation is not satisfying because value of gn is less. Okay, fn is more than the gn. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about that. We will do the complexity analysis only when the value of n is large. So for large values of n, means large value means what? Greater than n0, whatever n0 is there. So your function fn will be always less than gn. So gn is upper bound for this fn. The value of gn won't, the value of fn won't be more than gn at any moment of time. For lower bound, the notation is omega, and here if you see that the value of fn for this k, the value of fn is less and value of gn is more. But after this k, the value of fn is more and the value of gn is less. So the notation omega n is the formal way to express the lower bound, that it will take minimum this much time. जहाँ पे क्रॉस हो रहा है ना gn और fn, the minimum time taken by fn to run the algorithm, to run the execution. Okay, so the notation will be reversed. And the third notation is theta notation, which is telling about both omega and big O notation. The theta tells that the value should be in between. This f is always in between the lower and upper limit. So this is your omega notation, this is your big O notation, right? So the value of theta, if we talk about theta, then theta tells about both the things, lower bound as well as upper bound. So three notations, big O, which tells about only upper bound. So normally we are going to prefer upper bound only because we are not going to use lower bound or the range of the time, not even average. Okay. So even though three notations are there, the notations which are we are going to use will be only big O notation, upper bound. Okay. So here there are some kind of asymptotic notations. If the algorithm is taking constant time, then it is represented as ON. If the algorithm is logarithmic in nature, then depending on the input, logarithmic nature depending on the input, we will take examples while we are learning, while we learn the algorithms, searching algorithms, sorting algorithms. At that time, we will learn this concept in more detail, right? And we will find out actual complexity of the algorithms which we are going to study. So there you will come to know about those asymptotic analysis in detail. in unit 5, I think, right? So linear means, just now I have given you example of linear. So it is